Did you know that self-awareness is the most important and yet most misunderstood leadership skill? Did you know that most executives as a whole are less self-aware than any of the leaders who report to them? Nervous laughter erupts, right? And here is the most surprising phenomenon I've uncovered. Did you know that many of the most commonly accepted methods or tools for increasing self-awareness, not only do they not work, sometimes they can harm our self-knowledge? Are you surprised? No? One person is not surprised. I've got to tell you, I was. And I'm going to be sharing as much of my research as I can in the time we have allotted today. But first things first, the topic of this conference is the new talent economy. And all of you are spending all of this time and energy and mental space thinking about how you're going to take all of these principles back to your organization. What I want to argue is that you also deserve some self-development. If you think about the increasing importance that each and every one of you plays in your company, it's great, right? But with that increased importance comes increased pressure. So I think you deserve it. And what I want to challenge you to do is to sort of forget about that world out there. Everything will be as we left it in 60 minutes, and really think about using this time for you, for your growth and development as a leader. Sound fair? Awesome, okay. So let's start with a very basic definition. As you'll see, self-awareness is actually a little more complicated definitionally than it seems. But here's what my research team and I use. The definition is understanding who we are and how we're seen. Who we are and how we're seen. Now, I would go so far as to call self-awareness the meta skill of the 21st century. The meta skill, what does that mean? Researchers for many years, including myself, but many, many others, have found that people who are self-aware, and for our purposes, leaders who are self-aware, are happier, they make better decisions, they have better relationships. At work, they are higher performers who get more promotions. At home, they raise more mature children, they have better marriages. And there's even evidence that self-aware leaders actually lead more profitable companies. Very interesting stuff. But I would guess that none of you in this room are surprised. I have some fellow self-awareness geeks, right? Here's what I want you to think about, though, that might be a little bit new. Self-awareness is the meta skill because it essentially sets the upper limit for every other skill we need in the 21st century to be successful. Things like collaboration, influence, communication, emotional intelligence. And so we can only be as good at those things as we are self-aware. So last year, you guys had an incredibly impressive winner of the CLO of the Year, Audrey Masonet-Morales. And I was reading this article about her, and it just came sort of screaming out at me. She said that the three characteristics that talent leaders need: an innovative mindset, business acumen, and relationship building. And I saw those, and immediately it became clear that self-awareness was underlying them, right? For innovation, we have to understand what our assumptions are. We have to see how we're seeing things. For business acumen, those of us that maybe didn't grow up with a P&L have to know what we know and what we don't know. And then finally, relationship building, obviously, we need to know how other people see us and the impression we're making on them. So that's why I'm so passionate about this topic. And as I mentioned earlier, I've spent the last 4 years almost delving into this topic. And it's so incredibly important, but I think you'll see quite a few surprises. But before I go into all of that, I just wanted to say something about self-awareness as a construct in our world. How many of you have read an article at some point on self-awareness? Okay, almost every single person in this room. And that's great, right? But what I was starting to notice was that it was full of platitudes out there. They would say, well, be more self-aware, or we're not very self-aware, or get more feedback, or reflect on yourself. But to me, none of those sort of theories had been empirically tested. And that's what my research team and I have been working on. So we analyzed over 800 studies. 800 studies. We've surveyed thousands of people all around the world. And most importantly, I think, we identified people who didn't start out as self-aware, but who made dramatic transformations, radical improvements in their self-awareness. And the idea behind this, of course, is these people are going to be able to tell us what they're doing differently now, as opposed to people that naturally, sort of have self-aware qualities. So you're going to learn what some of these, as we call them, unicorns, have taught us.